Hey everyone, it's Jack. Season 17 is now 4 episodes in as of recording this, and honestly, I'm really enjoying this season. Off the bat, for me, I know a lot of the enjoyment of a season is tied to how I'm living my life at that point. The past 2 years have been a roller coaster, so seasons 15 and 16 have not really been my most enjoyed seasons, in the sense that each week I couldn't really sit down and absorb the season because there was just too much going on around me. Season 17, I've been given that chance to breathe, and yeah, I still love Drag Race just as much as I ever did. And honestly, right now, queer media and representation is more important than ever, so that is definitely adding to my enjoyment and support of this season. There's some things about this season that I can't just put into words why I am enjoying it. If we look at it, I feel like things are being sort of retread from past seasons. We have Rada Queen that came back this season, and something very akin to the Golden Chocolate Bar with the Badunkadunk Tink. And yet, at least for me, these twists are working better in this season than they have done in the past. Granted, we are only 4 episodes in, so the Badunkadunk Tink could be just like a complete blunder if we really get around to it. Hormona being saved by the first lover I think was definitely very intentional on their point, as probably the next lover will be too. I do assume that it's not a game of chance, and it's kind of expected at this point that it isn't. Like, we can go through the theatrics, but I'm pretty sure that they're just gonna save a queen when they really want to save a queen with a lever. And that's okay, that's expected, and I'm fine with them doing that on Drag Race. And when you really think about it, a queen being saved by like a miracle in the show, it's kind of dated back all the way to season 3 when Carmen was brought back. Sometimes they'll just bring a queen back because they like them, or save a queen in the competition because they like them, or aka pull the right lever. I can do a full separate video on whether or not Drag Race is fair. You can kind of debate that in the comments if you want, but when I really think it over, I don't come to Drag Race for that. I come for entertainment, and the Badunkadunk Tink is definitely providing that. Again, we're still very early on into the season, and this twist could completely flop, but with one of the saves already gone, it's kind of already pacing it out pretty well. The big blunder with the Golden Chocolate Bars on season 14 was the fact that there were so many other saves in the season, so it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It wasn't worth its weight in gold, if you will. If we start to see a ton of saves on the season as well as a lever pull, I might decide to not really like this twist, but I'm remaining pretty optimistic at this point. At the start of the year, after the holidays, I get a burnout that causes me to lose focus of tasks that need to be done. I go in waves of a good work ethic and motivation, but I always look for ways to help myself get on a track of consistency. 5 pillars that I always keep in mind are sleep, diet, exercise, stress management, and controlling external factors. And Magic Mind has helped me hit these pillars with drink shots for both focus and sleep. I'm recording this in the morning, and often part of my routine now is to wake up and take one of these shots, so I'm gonna do that right now. I often just get like a glass of oat milk and then just pour it in, mix it around. It tastes great. Often when I take sleep medication, I wake up groggy the next day, or when I have like an energy drink, I just feel really jittery instead of actually feeling focused. But with Magic Mind drinks, I wake up feeling refreshed after a sleep shot and remain focused throughout the day with a focus shot. I really enjoy these products. They taste great. It's really easy to just mix in or just take by itself. It's also natural caffeine, which over time I've learned is really right for my body. So if you're interested, the 24-hour pack that comes with focus and sleep shots is bundled for the first time for 45% off if you use my link. If you're trying to stay on top of your mental wealth in the new year, there's no better time to try Magic Mind. Get 45% off your Magic Mind if you go to magicmind.com/JackFedJan. Thank you so much to Magic Mind. I'm gonna finish my drink, and now let's get back to the video. And I'll say it, I think they did Rada Queen really well. I touched on it back in my premiere video that I just put out, but for the queens to rate each other in the opposite weeks made it much more interesting and have just more stakes in general. There were alliances like with Lana and Ariete, there was strategy with Acacia, who had to strategically place who she was lip syncing against, something that we've never really seen on Drag Race before. It flowed nicely. There's still impacts that we're seeing in the competition because they got the receipts for the Rada Queens, which was genius by production. I'm really impressed. I feel like they went back to the drawing board with the concept because they knew that there were little things that like Plane did that were really smart. So they took that and then they gave the girls the room to play around with the whole format. As for the talent shows for both of these weeks, I think they were both good. No one did a super bad job outside of maybe Hormona, who just didn't really land a lot of her jokes, but so deep into the talent shows and we are still seeing some new talents we haven't seen before, like with Susie and Lexi. And this Rada Queen format probably rewarded them a little more than the actual judges would, so I came away from the episode super satisfied with how they went. And it seems like they're taking a page out of season 15's book by doing a design challenge early instead of the ball, which I think I prefer. There's always the point that the queens should show as many outfits on the runway as possible, and I definitely agree with that for the most part. But sometimes when the ball comes early, like episode 3, and we're seeing upwards upwards of 40 runways, a lot of looks get lost in the mix, and I don't think we get to appreciate all of them the most. So having a design challenge early instead, where we still get to see the queen's skills, that's the way that I prefer to see it. But after seeing what each of these queens did, maybe I do want the ball, because they all did a really good job. Even Joella and Lucky, I don't think their outfits were bad by any means. In some seasons, I think they would be declared safe, but just in comparison to everyone else, yeah, they were definitely the bottom two. And I think there could have been like 5 or 6 queens that could have made the top 3. I was really taken aback by how good these runways were, and something to do with the main stage I think really makes them pop. I've seen a lot of critiques of the new setting saying that it's too dark or they're like in a void, and I definitely can see that at points. But especially for the runways, I feel like there is a big bump in quality, and it honestly makes the old stage look a little cheap. Or not exactly cheap, but just not pushing its full potential. And this most recent episode is just extremely promising for the rest of the challenges of this season. We always talk about how Canada's Drag Race has been very innovative with their challenges, and it's been super creative and entertaining to watch, but Drag Race US can do the same. I think a lot of the challenges from season 14 were really creative, and I was kind of waiting for that again. And with this parody music challenge, it reminds me a lot of Save a Queen from season 14. But this one goes even further, with the queens directing themselves and no guidance from any of the judges. And I think it made the product incredible. Without the direction of the judges, the queens were able to go wild and come up with ideas that I don't think they would be able to come up with if there was someone in the room telling them what to do. Crystal as the tumbleweed, for example, was hilarious, and it's only something that a group of queens could really come up with. The more I think about this challenge, the more I just fall in love with it. It really has the vibe of friends just making a home video or skit for themselves, but instead it's on the main stage for the judges, and I think the product turned out great. This challenge in general could be a bonding experience for all the queens, or it could cause a lot of conflict and drama. One of the segments on Drag Race that I think has the least substance is when they have to self-choreograph their numbers. There's always some sort of petty conflict that comes out of it, and it's basically there to set up who's going to be struggling with the choreography in the challenge. But beyond that, it's just kind of a nothing burger part of the show, and if you skip that segment, a lot of the time it doesn't really change anything. I say all of that because the self-taping portion of this episode is the self-choreography done completely right. The group choreography part of a challenge is like 40% of what matters, while for what is being taped here, it's like 95 to 100%. The collaboration and seeing people's visions come to life with very little interruption, I want to see 50 more challenges like that on Drag Race. And there's so many iconic quotes from the show that you can easily have this specific challenge come back, or they could do a different type of self-taping challenge with a different theme. I don't know, just give it to me. And next week we have RDR Live, which I've had some thoughts about over the past couple times that they've done it. I don't love this challenge by any means, especially when they say backed by popular demand. But the thing is, it's an acting challenge that I think gives a little more freedom than, you know, the parody acting challenges that they do. So if they want to keep doing acting challenges, I guess I do prefer RDR Live to something like Breast World. I don't know. I've also enjoyed the lip syncs of the season. I think they're doing a really great job editing them. They've been very even portrayals, but slowly towards the end of the lip sync, you start to see the winner pull ahead. And the song choices, aside from Women's World, have all been great so far, and I'm really excited to see what other songs are on here. We finally got a Buttons lip sync after probably years and years of asking. And Alter Ego was in my top 5 most streamed songs of 2024, so when I saw that it was a lip sync here, I fell out of my chair. For the storylines of the season so far, here's what I'm loving about this cast. Nothing is that serious to them, and I think that's really important for a viewing experience. Take a moment like with Jules and Anya and the whole trim situation. I feel like in seasons past, there would be queens getting on social media because something about the situation is still like hurting to them. But here, both Jules and Anya were just making jokes about it, and it seemed like water under the bridge. That then, to me, retroactively makes the conflict feel even more entertaining because it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's just for entertainment, and I wish some of the toxic fans would understand that. All of the queens on social media are so charming and funny, and it seems like they're just enjoying watching the show alongside the viewers. I wish some of them would stop using AI to edit their images because I think the shots by themselves are great, but that's besides the point. They're embracing the absurdity and their portrayals on the show, and that's helped to squash a lot of the backlash that queens unfortunately get. Take someone like Joella, who was one of, if not the biggest characters of the season up until her elimination. On social media in the past, I feel like we've seen queens get very defensive if they get an edit that's kind of similar to Joella's, but she was able to acknowledge her delusions while still standing strong on the things that she knows she's good at, and just play into the absurdity of all of the things that she did on the show. And that's made a bunch of people, including a lot of the past Ru girls, fans of her. She was such good TV, so I'm sad that she was gone because she made such a big impact for the short time that she was there. There's so many people on this cast that are such unique characters to anything that we've seen before. Lexi Love immediately hooked me in, and right now she's my winner pick. She seems like such a cool person, and I just want to get dinner with her and just listen to her life stories. What we learned about her life this week, while tragic, was was such an interesting look on what drag can do for people, especially pre-Drag Race. The interesting thing that they're doing with Lexi is like she's a very warm, motherly figure, but they're calling her grandma and auntie, saying that she's really old, and she's like 34. She's barely the oldest on her cast because Anya's also in her early 30s, but this is something that they just pinned onto her, and I find it really strange. I feel like we're being gaslit into thinking that she's much older. Susie Toot caught me completely off guard as one of my favorites of the season so far. Her talent show was so stupid, but so well executed in just the minute that she had, and since then she's really branched out and showed versatility without even really being critiqued to do that, and to me she's someone that I would want to watch on and off the show just to see what she does. Personally, I love Hormona Lisa and all of the little shady comments that she makes in her little cutesy voice. She seems to be a very divisive figure on the show, but again, she's another person who really capitalized on the social media and playing into the absurdity. People said that her confessional looked like Sadness. Okay, she's dressing up as Sadness and going on a whole tour. She just gifted her bob to Roscoe's, and that post got like 20k likes alone. Like I've been saying, it's these little things that are just making me a fan of all of these queens. Corey King, endlessly entertaining, the funniest person on social media. I am such a big fan of her. Crystal Envy has been a sleeper competitor from the start. Like she's honestly killed every single challenge so far. She was top 2 in week 2, and I hope that eventually she does get a win if she continues to do as good as she has been doing. But I really fear that the way she's been acting in the competition, very professional, very serious, very like get to the point, she might be the Jan of the season where they're teasing her for a long time to try and get a win, and maybe she eventually does, or maybe she doesn't. Anya Nerve is another one of my favorite queens and is clearly Rue's favorite of the season, which is tough competition because it seems like she really likes this cast a lot. I gravitate so much to Anya for some reason, and I can't really describe why. Her personality is just very welcoming to me. Like I feel like I've known her for a while and she's like a friend who got on the season, and seeing her flourish in the competition so far is incredible. I love this cast. I'm waiting for everyone to get their moment to shine because there's still some queens who I know are gonna do so good, but I'm just waiting for that week where they're really getting praised. The last queen that I do want to touch on though is Ariete, who just got the famous targeted Michelle critique where she obsesses over one thing that's very unique about your drag and then wants you to change it into something that's not unique. The way that Ariete paints her nose is unconventional and it's supposed to be eye-catching. This type of critique from Michelle is like stuck in the past. It seemingly comes back to her having a very ideal look of what drag is, but more so just kind of giving someone a conflict to come over and making a conflict out of nothing. I know Ariete can and will apply this critique just to make Michelle happy, but we know the curse that can come from this. Check out my arch nemesis Runner Eye's newest video for that. If Ariete applies the critique and immediately is sent home, I'm throwing hands. So far, season 17 is building up to be one of my favorite Drag Race seasons, and especially one of my favorite Drag Race seasons to watch live. I love this cast. It seems like the production's taking the right risks when it comes to both the twists and the challenges. The new main stage looks great. It seems like Rue is really into it this season. This is probably the first season in a while where I'm gonna stay up and watch the episode as it comes out because I'm just enjoying it that much. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this season. I know there's some people who are getting a little fatigued, but you know, that's a conversation that happens every year. Thank you so much for watching. Good night, and I'll see you soon with another video.